So the main thing is your health, and very further down on as a very distant number 2 is your body composition. Nowhere on that is the scale and how much you weigh, because the scale doesn't tell you anything about your health, anything about your body composition. You can put on muscle and lose fat and stay the same weight, and that happens very commonly. I experienced the same thing. I lost weight initially in the first sort of 2 weeks. I lost like 23 pounds, and then nothing. I didn't lose anything for months and months. But I could visibly see myself changing in the mirror. And because I was working out, I was lifting weights, and so I was putting on muscle and I was losing fat. So I could see that. But I stayed the exact same way, literally to the pound. I stayed 243 pounds on the nose every single day for months. But I was absolutely transforming physically, and my health was dramatically better, and I felt amazing on the rugby field. So, I was able to go back and play rugby at 38, which was, not everybody can do that, and I felt fantastic doing it. So that's the main thing. Your sugars are down, your blood pressure is down. Also remember that if your blood sugars are up, even at 130, that's probably still too high. And so if your doctor has prescribed you medications, you should continue taking these medications until such time as your body has recovered enough that you don't need them, if indeed that happens, which it does for most people. But don't just say like, oh, I'm doing this now, so I don't need medications anymore. That's not really the case. Especially with blood sugar and with blood pressure, you have to be very careful about these things. Not everybody can fully come off medications, although many people do. In fact, I would say probably most people do. But they all reduce their demand for them significantly. So make sure you're still taking medications. Look at your body composition. Look at how your clothes are fitting. Take progress photos once a month. Don't get too hung up on this. It's just focus on your health and how you feel first and foremost. Then body composition, very distant second, and then see how you go. And the other thing is too is that a lot of people have hormonal issues. They'll have metabolic issues that need to get better. They need to heal, and before their body starts giving up their fat stores. And so there are a lot of reasons for that. And there's some markers that you can tell: fasting insulin, leptin levels, these sorts of things. If those are elevated, you're not going to lose weight straight away necessarily. Some people do, but most people don't. When you have a very slowed and depressed metabolism, your body is just going to hang on to that fat a little longer. And then as by eating enough meat, so you eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good every day, and you do that and you exercise, you're going to encourage your body and basically tell your body, hey, we're not in a famine anymore. We don't need to sequester all this excess energy, and you'll start using it. So it just takes time. So most people will lose weight straight away and quite dramatically. Some won't. And it just has to do with their metabolism and their hormones and their body at that time. So you just have to be careful to not get discouraged just because you don't have as dramatic weight loss results as other people do, because everybody's coming from a different place. They have different levels of health, and they're going to react a little differently. But long term, you're all going to get there. You're all going to get maximized health. You're all going to optimize your health, and you will lose weight. You will lose body fat, and you will be a lot healthier as a result of that. There are a lot of forums on this. There's a lot of Facebook groups that have been doing this for 20 years plus. And this is a common thing. Some people just don't lose weight right away. Sometimes it takes a few months. Sometimes it takes 6 months, a year and a half. That's rare, but it does happen. So hopefully you're in the 6-month group or even the 4-month group, and you'll start losing weight. But just make sure you're eating enough. Eat until it stops tasting good, and just focus on your health. Make sure you're taking medication if you still need medication. If you're getting dizzy or getting low blood sugar, that's obviously time to start reconsidering your dosages of your medications and talking to your doctor about what would be the appropriate dose for you. So good luck with that. Don't be discouraged. You'll be fine. Beth Rademacher, thank you again for the super chat. How long does meat usually take to digest? Thanks. Well, it depends on if you're eating it with plants or on its own. On its own, it will liquefy and absorb within a few hours. And if you're eating it with plants, some of it won't ever digest and absorb. You'll have to be excreted because different plants can block protease, which is going to break down proteins, so that stops you from breaking down the proteins properly. They will have phytic acid and oxalates and tannins and other sorts of digestive inhibitors and anti-nutrients, they're called. Sometimes they'll bind to protein, bind to nutrients, and stop you from breaking them down. Fiber is an anti-nutrient. It can block up to 30% absorption of the food that you're eating. So they say, oh, well, that's really good if you're eating a whole bunch of processed crap because it stops you from absorbing 30% of the processed crap. I'm like, well, if you don't eat any processed crap, then you absorb 0% of processed crap. So, that's the thing. So if you're eating it with plants and fiber and all that sort of stuff, less. In fact, sometimes you won't absorb it at all and digest it at all. And if you're just eating meat just on its own, you will, depending on how it's cooked, slow cooked, it's going to absorb easier. Eggs are just going to be, in an hour, they're just going to be gone. And these sort and there's a gradient in between there. So, but in general, if you're just eating meat just on its own, and you're not eating with anything else, and you don't have any specific medical issues that would delay things, you'll liquefy and absorb the meat that you're eating within a couple hours. And if you're eating smaller amounts, probably even quicker. So yeah. Not that long anyway, pretty quick. It all gets absorbed in the small intestine. So before it ever gets to your large intestine, that stuff's already absorbed, because you can't really absorb nutrients in the large intestine. Mainly little bits of things, but mostly just water and salt and things like that. Zeta, thank you very much for the super chat. Zeta says, carnivore for a year, but my husband and 12-year-old son are not. Is coconut oil or MCT oil healthy for them, or should they just eat butter? Butter is probably the best. Butter is the best. MCT oil, from speaking with people that manufacture it, it's supposed to really isolate just the MCTs from coconut oil, which are probably fine. They're very ketogenic. They absorb very easily. You can actually absorb them without bile. They're one of the few fats that you can absorb without bile. And so you absorb it. And so you get your ketone levels up high. And so if you have someone who has a specific need for this, epilepsy, migraines, cancer, and you want your ketones up, then that's something you can use. Coconut oil in general will have MCTs, it will have saturated fats, will have good fats, it will have other fats, maybe not so good, but also they'll have plant sterols, which is the plant version of cholesterol. The plant version of things is typically not what we need or want. The plant cholesterol, plant sterols are close enough to our cholesterol that it tells our liver and potentially even our brain that we have enough cholesterol and we don't need to make any more. I don't know how that affects your brain's production. People say, oh, well, cholesterol doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. That's actually not necessarily the case. That's certainly something that has been posited, but there are studies that have looked at this and actually found that the levels have actually evened out and balanced out from one to another, and there seems to be a metabolite. They'll sort of break down into a smaller molecule that can cross the blood-brain barrier, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and then reconstitutes in the brain or actually outside the brain. So you can actually get cholesterol from outside the brain into your main circulatory system through the blood-brain barrier and vice versa. At least that's what a few studies have seen. And people say that, oh yeah, I can't do that. I mean, literally 5 minutes on PubMed, I found a number of studies that said, oh, well, actually, I probably can. But just not in the whole form. It's not, the cholesterol itself is not going to cross. It has to break down first, cross, and then reconstitute. But it does seem to be able to do that. In any case, at the very least, it's going to stop your liver from producing as much cholesterol as you want. And that's actually not a good thing. And so it can make it so you don't have enough cholesterol for your hormones, for your cell membranes, for other structural components as well, vitamin D, all these sorts of things. So it's not great to have that sort of thing, to have these plant sterols and any sort of plant oils, even though I would say that coconut oil is probably, if you're going to do plant oil, is probably the best. But if you can just stick to butter, I would stick to butter, maybe some MCT oil every now and then. Sure, but butter's great. Butter has, I mean, butter's called butter because of how much butyrate it has, which is ketone. You know, that's one of the main ketone bodies. And so you really don't really need anything else except animal fat. So good luck with that. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. Beth Rademacher, thank you so much for another super chat. It's good to see so much of you today. Beth says, saw the butter question on Tuesday. Curious how to know if you do okay with butter. I felt fine eating tons of plants. That's true. So feeling fine might not be the best indicator of how healthy a food is. Yeah. So that exactly the same as what you did with plants. You cut it out and you stop using butter for 30 days and you see how you feel. And if you feel better, great. And if you feel, I think I feel the same, add some butter back in, carefully and controlled. Don't add a whole bunch of other things. Just have something, you know, in your normal meal, but also add butter. Maybe just have butter on its own. See how you feel. And if you feel fine, if you feel better, great. And if it makes you feel a bit weird, you get a runny nose, you start having weird sort of symptoms, your energy is not as good, you know, whatever, you know, if someone has autoimmune issue, if it sort of causes that to flare up, you have achy joints, all these sorts of things, just anything off. So, but that's it. You have to eliminate it. Same idea with everything else. It's an elimination sort of diet. You eliminate out things and then you can add some back in, see what happens. I mean, some people add in, plants again. I mean, I don't know. Anytime anything slipped in, it's made me feel worse. And so I just have no interest in having it because I have no interest in not feeling my best. So cut it out for 30 days and then reintroduce it and see how you go. So Desiree Fetty, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Dr. Chaffee. How much water do you drink while eating? Is it bad to drink while eating? I think it is bloating me, but I need some guidance. Thanks. Yeah, I think it's probably good to avoid water when you're eating. You want your stomach to be that volume. You want there to be enough volume for food. You drink a bunch of water. That's actually just going to fill up space, and you could actually feel like you're full and want to stop eating before you're actually satiated from a nutrient point of view. Also, it's going to water down and dilute your stomach acids and your digestive enzymes from your pancreas once you get into the small intestine. So the thought is that you'll digest things more easily if you don't drink water around mealtime. So if you like what Salisbury said, Dr. Salisbury back in the 1800s said is basically sort of like room temperature or warm water, and don't drink water within 2 hours of a meal, before and after. So you don't drink water 2 hours before, so stomach's nice and empty, the stomach acid's nice and concentrated, and then 2 hours after. So give your body 2 hours to break this stuff down and absorb it before you start flooding in water and diluting it and things like that. And especially if you're feeling bloated and it's not feeling good when you're drinking water while you eat, definitely don't do it. So I'm not always great at that. Sometimes I like something to wash something down while I'm eating, but I typically try not to drink water around meal times either. Can't say that I've noticed a difference one way or the other, but I'm just going to do it on principle. But if you feel a difference, then definitely don't do it. But that's yes, you're right. It is something that can make a difference. Okay, Sherry Hutchinson, good evening. It's my first time. Well, welcome, Sherry. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm glad that you're here. Hopefully, it's something that's interesting and something that you're interested in trying, and give it a shot and just see how good you can do on it. And Darvit, one of our moderators, okay, making fun of me for being late again. Okay, thank you, Darvit. Super chat from Nav. Thank you very much, Nav. It's very generous of you. Day 42, carnivore, no caffeine, and lion last 8 days. Really good job. I get a normal solid stool in AM, no constipation. Later in the day, I get loose stools. I don't get solid and loose simultaneously. They are separate with time. Any tips? Yeah, that's interesting. If you're eating something fatty and that's when you're getting the loose stools, maybe you're eating more fat than your body can absorb. If it's distant to that, maybe something else is going on. If you're getting hard, dry, rocky stools, and then otherwise you're getting like liquid stools, regardless of the time of day that it happens, it could be that you're actually more constipated than you think, and you're getting these sort of semi-blockages, and then the liquid stool is sort of passing around that, and you're getting liquid diarrhea. It's called overflow diarrhea or spurious diarrhea. And so that's something to consider as well. So if it's just sort of normal, soft but formed stools, and then more liquid stools, you're probably on the other side of that. You're probably having more fat than your body can absorb as readily. Doesn't mean that it's bad for you. Doesn't mean that you're sick or you have an infection. It's just, inconvenient. But if you're having really hard stools and then liquidy stools, you're probably actually more constipated. There's sort of a U-shaped curve. So you have too little fat, you'll get diarrhea. You have too much fat, you'll get diarrhea. So you want to be sort of in that middle ground. So you aim for 1 to 2 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein. And, that's around, 65, 35 ground beef to 75, 30, and 25, around there. And so you're in that range, and see and adjust from there. And if that's not enough fat and you're sort of getting those harder, drier, more difficult stools along with the loose stools, up the fat. See what and then they might have loose stools for a while, but you get all that, clear that blockages out of there, and then your body will start sort of forming these things more naturally. It's a bit of a pain, but you have to sort of play around with it to see. And also remember that it's not just coffee. Coffee is obviously a major one, but coffee, caffeine, tea, but also artificial sweeteners, magnesium supplements, metformin, which is a very common medication for diabetes that people are on. All of those things can act as a laxative. And so you need to remember that. And if there's any of that, in there, you can't just adjust your fat intake. And then after that, if you think it is too much fat and you're not really absorbing it, try staying away from the rendered fat. Try to eat more solid fat that's in the meat itself. And yeah, so a few things to try anyway. And the other thing is you can do a journal, right? What you eat, when you eat it, and when you're having solid or loose stools, and see if there's a connection there, because it could be that you're just having something with more fat than your body can contend with, and then it just comes out. And if that's it, then that's easy to deal with, but it's sometimes easier to see when it's on paper. Leah, aloha from Maui. It's my 49th birthday. I just started carnivore diet and just ate tri-tip to celebrate. Hey, well, that's great. Happy birthday and welcome to the club. I'm sure you'll do really well with it. And thanks for giving it a shot, because why not? You can always go back if it's not working for you, but very, very rarely does that happen. Girlish Schrodiker says, your thoughts on a carnivore diet and extreme combat sports like Muay Thai. Is it possible? Yeah, absolutely. I know a number of fighters, professional fighters. There's oh god, I'll try to remember, but is a UFC fighter right now that's carnivore. And how do I know this? Because he's Carnivore Bar sponsors him, and he says he's carnivore. So and then there's a lot of top athletes. There's a boxer here in Perth that's giving it a try. There's Holland Gracie, one of the Gracie family. He's head of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in San Francisco. I've had him on my podcast. He does a carnivore diet, and he says his performance and training has just gone through the roof, and numbers and numbers of athletes. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did Muay Thai and pancration, so MMA, for quite some time before I switched over to rugby full time, and I went full time into rugby and then went carnivore, but I did dip back in and have trainings, in MMA and fighting, things like that. Felt just like a different person. Now it's hard to say because, I transitioned to rugby full time when I was 18, and so, I go back at 2021 and I'm already, an accomplished rugby player. Obviously that training and years of maturity physically and mentally are going to help when you go back into any sport. You're going to look at things very differently, and you're going to be better at it. So it's hard to say, but I definitely noticed it a hell of a lot easier to train in any sport. Wilton Ziegler was the guy's name. He's an MMA fighter, and I'm pretty sure he fights in the UFC. So yeah, you definitely do that. Any sport, any endeavor, any health issue, this can help. It's optimal nutrition. You're giving your body the exact fuel that it needs to be optimal. And if you're optimizing your health, you're also going to be optimizing your athletic performance. There are things like different drugs and amphetamines and steroids that may give you a short-term boost to your athletic performance, but do hurt you overall from a health standpoint. But if we're just talking about nutrition, what's optimal nutrition for you as a person should also optimize your health in general, which will make you a better athlete, right? Those two things should go together. And so, yes, you can definitely do Muay Thai on this. Okay. Then Laura says, from Facebook, says, hello from Florida. Just wanted to thank you for this community and knowledge of this way of eating. 5 months in and doing great. Well, that's really good. I'm really glad to hear that, Laura. And I'm glad that everybody, the community is awesome. I mean, everyone here is everyone is just wants to be healthy, and they want to help other people be healthy. I mean, you do get people that are a bit more aggressive and say, no, you have to do it this way. But, it's, typically people are very supportive and very helpful, and that's what you want. And so it's been really nice to see, you sort of know that you're on the right track if like the people in your community that are all doing this stuff are actually just nice people, just trying to help each other out. You get a whole bunch of nasty people that are just, the people that follow those shock accounts that just all they do is they don't do anything novel. They don't do anything. They don't bring anything new to the table. All they do is just trash other people. That cultivates a really, really, low class, low brow sort of community of just assholes who just, just want to just talk shit and tear people down. It's just all like the high school bullies and, childish people that just never grew up and just think that, it's you bring yourself up by tearing other people down. It's just like, like in high school is over, like grow the fuck up, but, this community is actually just nice, good people that are just getting healthy and just trying to help other people get healthy. And if you don't want to do it, it's fine. It's your business. So yeah, I'm glad that you've experienced that as well. Sorry for swearing. Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. Oscar Crazy One, thank you for the super chat. Carnivore for a year, lipid levels pre-carnivore. Have some panels there, and now so triglycerides, went up a bit. Or did they? Oh, total cholesterol, sorry. And then triglycerides went up a little bit. And then LDL went up a lot a bit, but no, I don't. The thing is that higher LDL cholesterol is associated with longer life. So, so good, you're doing good. Triglycerides are still in a fantastic level. Your HDL is in a fantastic level. Your triglycerides are in a fantastic level, even though they've come up a bit. They're still fantastic. You want your triglyceride to HDL ratio to be under 2. So you want your HDL to be at least half of what your triglycerides are. That's what a lot of people consider a good range. And you're in that. You're nearly 1-to-1. You were 1-to-1 last year. So that's good. Many things can affect your triglycerides. Stress, poor sleep, major things that can affect triglycerides. They can raise cortisol. Cortisol can raise blood sugar, and that can kick off your triglycerides as well. So make sure that you are getting proper sleep, that you are managing your stress as well as you can, doing things for yourself that make it so you can deal with the stress in your life. Everyone has stress in their life. Maybe you can change things so you don't have so much stress in your life. Maybe you can't. If you can't, do things that de-stress you, that make you feel happy, that make you feel good, that make you think that, make the stressful days worth it. So that you're not really holding this stuff in and letting it affect you negatively. And that's pretty much it. But you know what? I think you're doing fine. If you just stopped eating for 5 days and weren't eating any meat and any fat, your LDL would also go up. And so it's really not about you eating fat that's jacking up your LDL. It's about you not eating carbs. That's the main thing. And so I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you're otherwise healthy and you're doing well and you're feeling well and everything else is good, I think that's the most important marker. I don't bother checking cholesterol anymore unless someone specifically asks me to. There are much better markers: fasting insulin, your fasting blood sugar, HbA1c is actually not all that great. It's sort of a blunt tool. Leptin, these sorts of things, are a better sign of your overall metabolic health. And they're stronger indicators of poor metabolic health and potentially developing metabolic disease and heart disease. Cholesterol is not a very good indicator. It's actually pretty poorly associated, and a lot of studies actually it's not associated at all. In other studies, it's inversely associated. So, like the Framingham study was misreported as being showing that higher cholesterol was associated with higher levels of cardiovascular disease, and yet the actual data showed that it was the opposite: lower cholesterol, higher cardiovascular disease mortality rate. So in any case, I have a video, The Truth About Cholesterol and Heart Disease, probably a good one to watch. Interviews with cardiothoracic surgeon Philip Ovadia, talking about similar things, and interview with cardiologist and published author and many publications on cholesterol and things like that in the BMJ and other publications. Aseem Malhotra, I've interviewed them both, and they're sort of the same opinion. So take a look at those and see what you think, and decide with yourself and, with your trusted doctor, healthcare provider, what's going to be the best thing for you. For me, I'm more than happy for my LDL to be above the quote unquote normal range, because I don't think that is a normal range. I think that's just what we've arbitrarily assigned it. And I don't think that aligns with proper health. So me personally, I'm not too worried about it. In fact, I'm happy for my LDL to be exactly where it wants to be, because that's physiological. That's what my body's telling it to do. So I'm happy with that. When we're playing rugby tournaments, either for 15s or for 7s, it's a long day, and you're playing these games, and you're really wearing yourself out. You're putting everything out there every minute of the game. You should be anyway, and certainly at the higher levels you are, or else you're not getting invited to play.